This morning, Miles participated in a motocross race as a skilled racer. Unfortunately, his bike's chain broke, causing him to lose part of the race and feel frustrated and angry. Meanwhile, Miles witnessed the winner's celebration. Later, Miles and his father Chuck approached the winner Sam, asking for an additional chain because of their financial constraints. However, despite Sam's attempts to offer them the chain, his father behaved rudely and refused to provide them with it. Miles and Chuck were feeling down, but their spirits were lifted when a girl named Sarah came to their aid and stole the necessary part, giving it to them. They were able to fix the bike swiftly and prepared for the upcoming race. All the participants displayed exceptional skills, with Sam leading the way and Miles in close pursuit. Although it appeared to be a neck-and-neck competition, Miles pushed ahead at the end, allowing him to emerge as the winner of the race. After the race, Sam congratulates Miles on his win and invites him to a party. However, Miles politely declines the invitation. Chuck suggests that attending the party would enable Miles to establish connections within the motocross community. Meanwhile, in the research lab, a robot named a.x.l escapes, prompting the scientists and Rick to dispatch a search team to recover it, and it wanders in the city. Later that evening, Miles attends Sam's party, but it's apparent that he's not particularly enjoying himself. Miles observes as Sam and his companions use a blowtorch to incinerate a damaged car, recording and laughing the entire time. Feeling curious, Miles wanders around the house admiring Sam's impressive collection of bikes. During his exploration, he encounters Sarah and they enjoy conversing with each other. Later, Miles discusses with his father about the injustice of his inability to become the best national racer because he has no money. In the next morning, Sam invited Miles to the ranch to engage in riding practice. However, while Miles was preoccupied, Sam's companions added an unknown substance to his fuel tank. Unaware of this, Miles began riding his motorcycle with confidence. Regrettably, his motorcycle malfunctioned, resulting in a severe accident. To compound his trouble, Sam and his friends recorded the fall and deserted Miles, leaving Miles to deal with draining the contaminated liquid from his tank and refilling it with fresh fuel. After Miles attempted to start his motorcycle, it refused to cooperate, leaving him puzzled about what to do next. Suddenly, he heard a commotion coming from a nearby abandoned container. To his astonishment, he discovered a.x.l, a robotic dog, inside. Initially frightened, Miles tried to exit the container, but a.x.l trailed him persistently. Overcome with fear, Miles decided to run away, but unfortunately, a.x.l got injured during their journey. Overwhelmed with guilt, Miles went back to assist the wounded a.x.l, only to learn that the robotic dog was on the verge of self-destruction. In a moment of empathy, Miles halted the countdown, saving a.x.l's life. Subsequently, a.x.l linked with Miles' phone and he discovered how to repair the robotic dog. The next day, Sam and his associates, or accomplices, created a cruel video about Miles, but Sarah intervened and inquired about his whereabouts. Meanwhile, Miles persisted in repairing a.x.l until he ultimately completed the task. Upon removing the muzzle, Miles realized that the robotic dog had concealed weapons. Nevertheless, a.x.l did not harm Miles and they spent an extended period of time engaging in playful activities on the ranch. Unfortunately, their prolonged stay in the open resulted in Crane System scientists discovering the location. Agent Berman was getting ready to obliterate a.x.l systems, but Rick intervened, expressing his desire to observe how a.x.l interacts with humans. He deemed Miles as a suitable test subject. Meanwhile, Sarah arrived at the site searching for Miles. However, a.x.l spotted her first and almost attacked her. Miles quickly intervened, calming a.x.l down and reassuring him that Sarah is a friend. a.x.l eventually calmed down and his eyes turned blue. Later that evening, Miles and Sarah deliberated on what to do with a.x.l. Sarah was of the opinion that they should return him. However, Miles drew attention to bullet holes on the robotic animal's body, implying that he was not treated well. After their conversation, the couple danced and their affection for each other was unmistakable. In the lab, Berman suggested that they should offer Miles and Sarah a reward but take a.x.l away, citing their poverty. Andrick points out that a.x.l's sophistication has increased due to human interaction, so they plan to keep observing him. The following day, Miles and Sarah take a.x.l with them and cover him with a sheet. On their way, they stop at a gas station to refill, and a.x.l hacks into the machine, allowing them to refuel without paying. Later, they also notice that a.x.l has hacked into an ATM. Joanna is looking for her daughter Sarah, who is currently in an abandoned building spray painting graffiti. As Sarah draws, a.x.l watches and tracks her movements. Later, a.x.l shows them a presentation created by Crane Systems, revealing that he was designed as a weapon meant for killing humans on the battlefield. This information shocks Miles and Sarah, leading them to question what they should do with a.x.l. a.x.l dispenses a biometric device, which Miles touches, permanently pairing them together. Meanwhile, Sam shows up at the abandoned house where Miles and Sarah are and behaves aggressively. Sarah confronts him and Miles unleashes a.x.l to protect her. The dog is ready to defend his owners, but Miles orders him not to attack, and Sam eventually leaves. Andrick is pleased that the dog follows all of Miles' commands perfectly. Berman raises the concerns that Miles had a potential to use a.x.l to harm Sam. Sarah is upset with Miles because her mother, Joanna, is employed as a housekeeper for Sam's family, and the incident could lead to complications for her family. She suggests that it would be wise to confide in someone older about what occurred. They leave a.x.l at the abandoned house and decide to report to Miles' father. As Sam and his friends arrive, they have one goal in mind: to harm a.x.l. But the dog remains passive towards Sam, as Miles had previously commanded it to do so. Sam pours a significant amount of fuel on the ground and attempts to lure the dog over, while instructing his friends to live stream the scene. As Sam and his friends arrive, they have one goal in mind: to harm a.x.l. But the dog remains passive towards Sam, as Miles had previously commanded it to do so. Sam pours a significant amount of fuel on the ground and attempts to lure the dog over, while instructing his friends to live stream the scene. As Sam eagerly wields his flamethrower, Miles and Sarah are at Chuck's house confessing to him what had happened. Sarah and Miles make a decision to return a.x.l to the military, but their plans are interrupted when Sarah sees a live video of Sam burning a.x.l with a flamethrower. In a rush to save a.x.l, they head to the location, but they forget to bring their biometric scanner needed to activate him. Sam successfully damages a.x.l systems, and the two scientists who are watching the event can only scream in horror at their screens. As the couple arrives, they find a.x.l in a severely burned and damaged state, but they are able to revive him and put him in their truck. At the same time, a government agent enters Chuck's house and intimidates him with a gun, interrogating him about Miles. However, Chuck notices the biometric scanner Miles left on the table. The agent searches through the garage, but Chuck confronts him with a bow and demands that he drop his weapon. Amid the chaos, Andrick loses his temper while Berman takes covert action by sending an email to Captain Weber. Miles and Sarah bring a.x.l to a 3D printing station where they use the design to print technology to fix his damaged body and cables. a.x.l communicates that he has been repaired, and the reboot process will take less than 3 hours. They wait patiently for the reboot to complete. After the children embrace and enjoy themselves, Rick discovers a.x.l's location and dispatches additional agents to retrieve them. Meanwhile, Miles and Sarah evade the agent's pursuit, and with their assistance, a.x.l restarts and incapacitates them. a.x.l then examines his memory and sets off to eliminate Sam, with Miles and Sarah trailing him in an effort to thwart his plans. At a caravan festival filled with campfires, Sam and his companions are enjoying themselves until a.x.l suddenly arrives and creates chaos. Although a.x.l so targeted Sam, Miles and Sarah show up and discover Sam locked in combat with a.x.l. When Sam attempts to use a flamethrower against a.x.l, it runs out of juice, prompting Miles to intervene and subdue a.x.l. However, the relief is short-lived as a swarm of drones assaults them, with Andrick observing how they utilize electrical shots to neutralize a.x.l. Upon the government agent's arrival, they restrain a.x.l and transport him along with the couple to Crane Systems Laboratory. Andrick presses Miles to surrender the biometric key, but Miles argues that a.x.l is a living being that requires proper treatment. Andrick, on the other hand, refuses to acknowledge a.x.l's sentience and perceives him solely as a machine. When Miles refuses to comply with Andrick's demands, Andrick imprisons Sarah in a laser enclosure, presuming that a.x.l will retaliate if she attempts to flee. Despite being confined in the laser cage, Sarah manages to utilize the laser to produce graffiti art, which she had previously created in an abandoned dwelling. The robotic dog recognizes her movements and acknowledges her as a friend. a.x.l then turns against Andrick and Berman, prompting them to flee. Nevertheless, the military soon apprehends them, and Andrick is detained after Berman reveals pertinent information. In the meantime, while Sarah chooses to depart without incident, Miles and the robotic dog make their escape from the agents. As Miles and a.x.l traverse the field, they are pursued by agents. Unfortunately, both of them plummet down a cliff, resulting in Miles sustaining injuries. The robotic dog scans Miles' body and detects a broken arm, but Miles urges the dog to depart. a.x.l flees the scene, but before long, the squadron of drones descend upon him and subsequently self-destruct. Finally, a.x.l bids farewell to Miles, conveying affection through its expression. Captain Weber makes an accusation against Andrick, alleging that he released a.x.l's codes on the dark web. Meanwhile, Miles and Sarah reach a decision to enroll in the same art school. Captain Weber reveals that they plan to reassemble a.x.l shortly, and they will be responsible for supervising it. To their astonishment, Miles activates a biometric scanner, and they both receive notifications from a.x.l on their mobile devices. The couple grins, implying that a.x.l persists as software, indicating his survival.